Thank you very much for that, Emily. Well, a survey conducted by the American Chamber of Commerce found that 3/4 of businesses believe China is losing its competitive edge. The benefits of manufacturing there are starting to fade as the cost of doing business rises. Another factor is rising oil prices and the cost of shipping finished goods. That all continues to go up. So, does it still make sense for foreign companies to have their manufacturing there amid the rising costs of fuel and labour? Here to help us answer that question is Richard Brubaker, Managing Director of China Strategic Development Partners, joining us now live from Shanghai. Richard, good to have you on the show today. What are your findings on that front?
Thank you. Actually, what I'm finding is, much like China has historically, it depends. Many companies have different models within China, whether you're an export-based model or you're trying to sell into the China market itself. And depending on your model, the price of oil, the price of labor, taxes will all have a different impact upon your own business.
Is there any possibility that some of those costs could start to come down, particularly on the fuel front, considering what's happening with commodity prices recently?
Well, obviously that's more of a global market, but in terms of having the price come down from 150 down, it does alleviate some of the pressure. However, I think that going long term, companies have had to account for more of the transportation costs and account for more of the the subsidized costs of China into their margins. A number of Chinese suppliers are operating on thin margins, but are they going to fall over? At this point, I don't think we've seen that.
How much is the currency also playing a part in the fact that China does seem to be losing some of its competitive edge, considering that the Chinese yuan is on a gradual appreciation path? I mean, it certainly does seem to be one of those things that a lot of people complain about when they say it's just not cheap to do business there anymore the way it used to be.
For exporters, it's definitely more of an issue, and especially if you have an American buyer who's using U.S. dollars to purchase Chinese goods, whose suppliers are billing in renminbi. You've seen about a 15 to 20% price change. If you are a multinational who's operating in China, who's billing locally, selling locally, procuring locally, then it doesn't have quite the impact that it would if you were trying to export those same products.
Richard, I guess the question here is, if indeed China is no longer as competitive as it used to be, who is it losing to? Where are the foreign companies going to?
Well, I think from what I've seen so far, it's not that companies are moving, it's that it's preventing them from coming here to begin with. That was kind of the first layer about 6 to 12 months ago. There's been some discussion about, people, or textile firms moving to Vietnam and India, and I think that each of, Vietnam and India have the capability to bring on some capacity, but to expect a full industry of, plushie toys or shoes or whatever to move from China to, say, Vietnam or India at this point is still very premature. Their infrastructure is not there yet.